people over the past few months have asked me to do transition pictures for Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism and the Latter-day Saints. He died in 1844 at the age of 38. He was assassinated, actually. And people have asked, was he a charlatan or was he a prophet, as so many believe? He wrote the Book of Mormon, the biblical companion, not the show, at the age of 24, said he'd had visions of God and Jesus and angels, and an angel had actually led him to a field where he dug up some gold plates. And the message on those gold plates from an ancient civilization had been transcribed into the Book of Mormon. Well, he wouldn't let anybody see the plates. He kept them in a chest, locked up. It was very, very mysterious and led a lot of people to thinking, this guy's a fraud. Well, ultimately, he ended up in Illinois, and he was building up quite a fan base, quite a cult following. But then a movement built up against him and against Mormonism. And I think a local paper was going to run an article or an expose saying what a charlatan he was. And he became so angry and so frightened that he burned down the printing press. This made people even more angry. And I think he was actually locked up for doing damage to the printing press. While he was in jail, a bunch of townsfolk broke in and killed him. As I say, he was 38 years old. When I went into his energy, he was falling down a cliff. But there was a very, very large ledge which he hit, bounced off, and then fell down the rest of the way. And it made me think, I wonder if there were two shots then. Maybe he was shot first, hit the ledge, shot again, then fell the rest of the way. But actually, when I looked it up, I discovered that he'd been shot, fallen out of a window, and then died when he hit the ground. So that explains the ledge, and I didn't know that when I did the pictures. In any case, he had a very, very hard landing. There was a scree of rocks, and he just slid down it really, really hard, and he slumped at the bottom. This was a complete shock to him, that he could have fallen so fast and so young. And he lay there and looked around him. Remember, this isn't a real cave, it's just symbolic, but it's what I see. And he looked around him and it was all dark. The lights were off, as if the universe wasn't ready for him. Now, I've seen this a couple of times before, and it always puzzles me because I thought everything was laid out and you agreed to die at a certain time. You know, your days are numbered, and when your number's up, that's it. And if you're assassinated, it's not really a surprise. That was part of the plan. You would do that. It was a soul contract with the person who shot you. That's what I thought. So how come when you arrive in this place, as he did, there's no lights, it's all off? He didn't understand what had happened. He had a very, very definite sense of what he believed. It was deeply ingrained within him. None of what he was looking at, therefore, made any sense. He wandered across to the tunnel, which was also dark. But as he walked, he began to challenge his own beliefs. So this is supposed to be heaven? This is supposed to be where God is? I don't get it. He was totally confused. This was cognitive dissonance taken to extremes. If he was a con man, if his beliefs were completely made up, then he totally believed them. He was a salesman for what he believed. And as he walked up the tunnel, a degree of humility crept in because he was very tiny. He must have had a sense of his own greatness, whether it was real or not, as a prophet when he was alive, and really believed he was. And usually when the figure is tiny and the environment is big, it's a reminder that there's no greatness on that side of the divide. But as he walked up the tunnel and became more accepting of the fact that his expectations were not being met by reality, he grew a bit at a time. He became larger because he got a sense of perspective now that he'd not had on the mortal side. And the weird thing was that as he embraced that, the lights came on in the tunnel. It wasn't that the universe wasn't ready for him. It was that he wasn't ready for the universe. He wasn't accepting enough. He wasn't submissive enough. He needed to surrender to the process, not think, I got it all worked out. But that surrender was as far as it went, from what I could tell, because he was so immersed in cognitive dissonance, so confused by how what God and Jesus and the angels had told him didn't correlate with what he was seeing, that he just simply told himself, oh, this is just part of a process. I'll just carry on walking, see where it leads me, because ultimately I'm going to be proved right. Ultimately, I will find that God is there and Jesus is there and the angel Moroni or whatever is there. Everybody's there. All I got to do is keep going. This is an early part of reaching heaven. And it may be, by the way. I don't know what happens after the dome. But when he got to that light, that room of light, there was no awe, there was no debate, there was no thinking, where's Jesus? It's just like, keep on walking. And he did. He just walked forward and thought, it's at the end of here. When I go through this, that's where God will be. That's where Jesus will be. He was convinced to the bitter end that he was right. And he didn't have the necessary intelligence, maybe, or humility, or perspective, maturity, to be able to integrate what he knew with what he could learn. So he was completely confused by the whole process. And he just disappeared into the light and went. No lessons learned at all. Keep on going. I'm right. God is at the end of here. He's like, in the next room, I'll just open this door and I'll go, and there he'll be. Maybe he was. I don't know. But it's very, very interesting. The man had such conviction that he was right.